What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name's Dave Richmond, Whitetail Obsession Outdoors. Today we're doing some late season scouting on this little small piece of property here, and I like to make these videos as questions come in, to whether it's to my email, a YouTube comment, or something like that. But today's topic is, if I don't shoot that buck, my neighbor will. And this comes up a lot. Is a lot of hunters will say like, oh, well, it's brownest down because that's how my neighbors are, or if I don't shoot that 4-pointer, my neighbor will. And I kind of want to try to change your mind on that, because it's not true. It's just old sayings that people used to say, and it's just weird mindsets that people have, and it's a lot of bad advice, pretty much, really, is what it boils down to. It's bad advice from negative people, that's hunted, and just brought up into hunting for years and years and years. And it's kind of like, if one person says something, okay, like one person is trying to teach something, and then other people just follow along and say the same thing when they have no experience, with that. And it's not true that if you don't shoot that 4-pointer, your neighbor will. Well, you have to realize is, okay, how did a 4-pointer become a 4-pointer? How did a 6-pointer become a 6-pointer? How did an 8-pointer become an 8-pointer? How did a 10-pointer become a 10-pointer? How did an 80-inch deer become an 80-inch deer? How did a 150-inch deer become a 150-inch deer? Okay, you see what I'm saying? Just because you pass a deer does not mean that your neighbor will shoot it. And I don't really personally care what my neighbors do. I don't care. Now, obviously, there's pros and cons to this. If you're in an area where, all surrounding neighbors are trigger happy, they're shooting all the does, all the bucks, then yeah, it's going to be a little bit harder to try to grow deer within your area, or progress deer to the next age class by giving them birthdays. It's going to be a little bit more difficult. If everybody's on the same page, then it's going to be a little bit more easier. But even with that said, just because you pass a 4-pointer doesn't mean anybody within that area is going to shoot that deer. Okay, back to, how did an 8-pointer become an 8-pointer? Okay, it's past hunters. It's gotten away from hunters. It's eluded them, for whatever it is, 2-3 years to become an 8-pointer. Okay, deer get smart, bucks get smarter. They learn to pattern hunters, and they learn to pattern tree stands. How many times have you been hunting in the woods, and all of a sudden a deer's just walking by, and all of a sudden, boom, they look up? It's because they're used to hunters in that area, and they avoid them. I've used to hunt this piece of property years ago, and this guy would hunt the same tree stand over and over and over and over again. He used to have deer walk about 30 yards past it, and as time went on, those deer started shifting, right? It was kind of an open hardwoods area, and next thing you know, he started noticing that the deer were shifting, 50 yards, 60 yards, 70 yards at a time, because they were avoiding him. They knew he was in that tree stand, and they avoided that hunter because whatever it is, they see that object up in the tree, they see you moving around, they hear squeaks, they hear these different types of noises, and they learn to avoid that area. Well, after hunting season, that buck's still alive, 8-pointer. Next year, if he makes it, doesn't get hit by a car or die for some unknown reason, next year he's bigger. Then the next year he's bigger. So the mindset of, if it's, if you don't shoot a 4-pointer because you're desperate, you get desperate toward the end or something, end of hunting season, and you say in your mind, like, I really need a deer. Well, do you really need a deer? Okay, you don't have to get desperate. And yeah, there's some people out there that are unfortunate where, they lost their jobs, they could use the deer meat, but majority of people don't. And you'll see people on social media where they'll say like, man, I really want to grow a big deer. I really want to grow a big deer. I want 8-pointers, I want 10-pointers, I want 130-inch deer. And then the next week they shoot a 4-pointer and say, well, it's not the biggest buck, but I needed meat. Come on, like, you don't have to make excuses for your shot. If you want to shoot a 4-pointer, shoot a 4-pointer. It's up to you. But don't be that person where you're saying that and then complain about it later on that you don't shoot big deer, but yet you're shooting 4-pointers. You see what I'm saying? Most hunters aren't starving. If you can afford to buy a license and buy a bow and buy a gun and binoculars and range finders and, you know, travel back and forth to your hunting leases, I'm pretty sure, you know, you don't need a deer to fill the freezer because you're starving. So again, it boils back to, if just because you pass a 4-pointer doesn't mean your neighbor's going to shoot it. If you desperately need meat, try to shoot a doe. You know, give those deer extra birthdays, let them mature, become bigger, let them live their life. And I'm not saying this to bash anybody. If you want to shoot a 4-pointer, if you want to shoot a spike, if you want to shoot a 6-pointer, I don't really care what you do. But you can't grow bigger deer if you keep continuing to shoot 4-pointers, right? And the old saying of, you know, if you don't shoot the 4-pointer, your neighbor will, it's completely false. Try to get away from that. Learn how to, you know, bring deer to the next age class with letting them go, give them an extra birthday, creating the food sources, having unpressured properties. If you're one of the people that hunt public land and that's all you want to do, that's perfectly fine. I'm not saying that it's bad, right? But try to get away from those old sayings like that, and you know, give a deer an extra birthday, and you'll be, it's amazing what one more year can do to a lot of deer. I'll see you guys on the next video.